Before becoming a mother, taking care of cooking and home chores was really a bit of a nuisance because it meant working a full day and then coming home and having extra things to do. But now, being home full-time, everything is different. This has made me realize how easy it is to be wasteful with my time. And if time could be measured in a way, I think about a scenario where at work I'd be working on the clock, I'd be accountable for how I spend my time, but at home it's just me and there isn't really much accountability. And if it were possible to do some specific calculation, I guess I wouldn't say that mothering and homemaking gives you more time to do things, but it does feel like when I was working full-time, I didn't have as much time to dedicate to home things. In a way, I have more time to cook good meals, keep my finger on things at home, and so operations can be smoother. And like I said in a video last week, as we're heading into these winter months, I am prioritizing making warm, nutritious meals to keep us healthy and keep warm over the winter time. That means cooking with lots of vegetables, lots of broth, and today I'm going to be doing just that by clearing my fridge as much as I can before we go grocery shopping again. And a meal that is healthy and helps me to clean up my fridge is a nice stew. I'm going to be cooking mine on the stove today, starting with this flank steak, boiling in some water. And I know that sounds bizarre, but I learned about boiling meat from a friend of mine who I recently saw doing that. And it made the meat taste so tender by cooking it over a long period of time, like an hour and a half, and then chopping it into smaller pieces. It was delicious. While the meat boils, I'm preparing all of the vegetables ahead of time. Fishing through my fridge, I'm dragging out all of the vegetables I can find, and that's when I spotted a rosemary stem that I remembered I wanted to try to shoot some roots so that I can plant it in our garden this year. To do that, I'm filling a jar with some mineral water, and then I'm dipping the root just a little bit in baking soda before I put it in there to make roots. My friend told me that she recently learned adding a little bit of baking soda can just help prevent this stem from rotting before the root comes or while the roots are growing, just so that it doesn't rot. So just a little bit, not too much. And I guess we'll see in a few weeks if it worked. Now back to the vegetables. I'm chopping a part of a cabbage, celery, and some very dated green onions, but I think they still have a little bit of life in them. I'm also going to be adding carrots and zucchini and a little bit of cauliflower. As I was saying earlier about this role and job of being a homemaker, I believe it's important that we work hard and be very productive with the time that we are given. But for anyone in this role, it quickly becomes work that's around the clock. It's basically like a circular job that keeps on going, and it can be difficult to feel like you're really accomplishing anything because just when you do, there's the next thing, and pretty soon you're doing it all over again, so it never really feels like it comes to full completion. And in a way, that's pretty unsatisfying, and the way that I keep myself on track and motivated is by focusing on the thing that is right in front of me. And I too sometimes get discouraged or simply don't want to do something, but I just think, what is the next thing in front of me that I could be doing? Because if I get busy doing something, I quickly forget about how I feel or what I do or don't want to do. They just kind of fall away and I get to doing what my duty is. And a lot of time at home when I don't want to do things, I find it better to not even think about it and just get to work. And pretty soon it's done, or I'm totally forgetting about how I felt and I'm actually doing the things that I'm supposed to be doing. And so if I find that I'm overthinking it, I'll quickly turn on a podcast or the news or a book that I'm trying to listen to and drown out those thoughts and just get going. The carrots I'm just going to add straight into the pot where the meat is boiling. That way they can cook in there until they're almost soft, and then I'll chop them into smaller pieces. This is also a good time to use up some of the leftover broth I have in the fridge before we make another batch in the next week or so. Now while the meat is boiling for an hour and a half, I'm going to cook the other vegetables in a pan with some coconut oil, and then I'll add them to the stew later on. Starting with the celery, cabbage, and onions to soften first, and then adding the zucchini and cauliflower at the end to simply steam with the lid on. There's always something to do, always a meal to prep, laundry to load or get going, an area of the house that could use some extra detailed cleaning. You know what I'm talking about. There's always something for us to be doing, which is true in all facets of life, but especially in homemaking. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't rest But this is about staying motivated, and there is a special day for rest, which I believe God has instilled for us. But the other days we are meant to work, and to work hard. And as homemakers, it's tempting to think that hard work isn't required, and that maybe the hard work is just for the breadwinners. But really, homemaking is hard work. Oftentimes, it really isn't simple, easy work. It is hard work to keep on doing these things over and over, and doing them well and with care and love, managing your time well, and putting in the effort that it requires to really keep things moving smoothly. And it's easy to get into this culture where it doesn't really matter if the house is dirty, and it doesn't really matter if the meal isn't all that good. But why wouldn't it be? We're working for glory, and we're working for our families, and it really should matter the work ethic that we have and the effort that we put into these things, because it matters to God. And I've said it on here before, we're so fortunate to have all this machinery working on our behalf. It's like having so many extra hands helping you wash the dishes and do the laundry. Really, we are so fortunate for all this help, and it should make us be able to dip our toes into things that we wouldn't normally have time for. Really, they should make us all the more efficient. I'm gonna get started with the sticky rice. I don't have a rice cooker, so I'll be making the sticky rice on my stovetop. I'm no expert, but one year a family in our church had us over and taught us how to make sushi so that we could make it for our family over the holidays. So we came ready to learn. I had my notebook and I took vigorous notes, and this is what I learned about how to make sticky rice. I'm going to put the directions and the measurements up on my website, mountainvalleyrefuge.com, if you want to get a printout of the recipe for how to make sticky rice on a stovetop. I'm only going to be making 1 cup of rice, and it has to be short grain rice for sticky rice. Start by washing it 3 times until the water is clear, and then let the rice sit in the water for 20 minutes. Now while you wait, stir together the rice vinegar and the sugar until the sugar dissolves completely. After 20 minutes, strain your rice from the water and add it to a pot of boiling water. Cook it as directed on the package. Mine said about 20 minutes. And when the rice is done, wait for 5 minutes and then add the rice vinegar. You'll see the sugar is dissolved really nicely, so I'm just stirring this mixture into the rice, and ta-da! Sticky rice. Now back to the stew. I'm taking the carrots out after about 30 minutes and then slicing them into bite sizes. Next, taking the meat out to do a little test, making sure it's nice and tender, and if it weren't, I would put it right back in to cook a little longer. But it's done, and I'm slicing it to put it back in the pot with the carrots and the rest of the vegetables so that everything mixes nicely together. Now I forgot to add the garlic to the vegetables when I was cooking that earlier, and it would have been so much better if I did, because real garlic adds so much flavor to a dish. But I'm just going to be adding some garlic powder at the end here. But if you're watching this before you've made it, add the garlic earlier. And this is one tasty meal for us to enjoy this wintry evening. Now we're getting ready for some pretty big updates in our life. Things have taken a quick little turn, which we did not expect. But I'm trusting that sometimes things like this is just what we needed to have a little change up in our lives. And so I'm going to share more of that with you in the coming week. Thank you for hanging out with me, and until the next video, cheers!